What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. So today we are talking about the Zoya Fall 2025 collection, which is called Muse. Now before we get into the details, if you haven't heard of Zoya before, they are a mainstream salon brand and all of their polishes are 10 free, meaning they are free of 10 of the potentially harmful ingredients that can be found in nail polish. They're vegan, meaning they do not use any animal derived ingredients, and they're also cruelty free, meaning they do not test their products on animals. And they just released their new Muse collection, which is actually 12 new polishes, and it's pretty much split in half. So 6 of them are more neutral and pinky tone shades, and then the other 6 are more cooler tones in like the purple, green, blue family, and have a little bit more of a specialty finish. So I will say Zoya tends to be hit or miss for me. I do enjoy their formula for the most part, but sometimes I find their color stories to be a little bit uninspired. However, when I saw this collection, especially the darker purpley blue green tones, I was very intrigued. So I'm pretty excited to share these with you. Let me just dive right into the swatches and then we can talk a little bit more about my thoughts on them, pricing, availability, all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as with all of my swatch and review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I'm using the KB Shimmer Ridge Filling base coat. And I'm going to start off with a favorite in this collection. This is Starling and it is an absolutely stunning purple leaning periwinkle shade that is absolutely packed with holographic glitter sparkles. And as you can see, it has a little bit of that crelly sort of formula, so it does give nice opacity, but you can still see through the layers to see some of the previous layer of hollow sparkle, and it just creates such a beautiful look on your nails. I instantly fell in love with this one. I love the sparkle. It definitely dries to a bit of a grittier finish, but I did try it out with top coat and it smooths out very nicely. Next up we have the shade Daphne. This is another purple, but this one is a deeper purple cream shade, and this is what I like to call a royal purple color because it has that cooler tone to it, it has that depth to it, and it just feels like a very rich shade, and it gave me perfect coverage in 2 coats. It was super self-leveling, super easy to use. I love the name. It reminds me, did anybody remember that Scooby-Doo movie? The live action one where that guy is like, here's a tip, purple's a fall color, it's the middle of May, to Daphne. That's what this color makes me think of. And then because Zoya clearly loves me, they have decided to bless us with another purple nail polish. So we also have Octavia, and this is a totally different finish as well. This one is a shimmer polish, so it's actually this really deep, cooler toned purple base, and then we have a very cool toned shimmer running throughout, and then in addition to that we have these very slightly larger flecks of a more pinky toned color, so it creates a lot of really beautiful depth. It feels like the perfect Halloween-y type of purple to me. I always love that contrasty color, and again, perfect coverage in 2 coats and looks so beautiful on. Next up we have the shade Navy, which, if you can believe it, is actually a navy blue cream shade, and I feel like I've been very critical of very dark, almost black colors on my channel recently, and I just want to say this is the kind of color that I'm usually hoping for when it comes to darker shades, because you can very clearly see, even though it is very deep and in lower lightings it'll probably look black, but you can see that this is a blue, especially compared against my black background. It still distinctly has that blue coloring to it, so I was really excited about this one. I think it's beautiful. And then we have the shade West, and this one is a very deep sage green kind of color, so it has a cream finish and it's actually super opaque. It pretty much gave me full coverage in that first coat, and we have that really nice, very cool undertone to it, but it still has a bit of a greenish vibe, and this is another really beautiful one, another really self-leveling one. I think that Zoya's formula has improved a lot over the years, and I especially feel like their deeper cream shades apply so easily, so they're very beginner friendly. And then we've got the shade Emery. This was another favorite in the collection for me. I actually honestly love all of the polishes that I've reviewed so far, but this one really stood out to me. It's kind of like a mix between a purple and a brown base, and then we have this really beautiful soft golden shimmer running throughout, and it's really intense, but the color of that gold still feels nice and subtle. It almost has a little bit of like a champagne tint to it, and this was another really opaque shade. It pretty much gave me 1 coat coverage, but I'm showing you what it looks like in 2. It just feels like a very cozy autumnal kind of color to me, so really enjoyed it, and I just love that kind of glow from within look. And now on to the second half of the collection, which, like I said, it leans a little bit more towards the neutral and pinky kind of tones. This shade is called Hebe, and this one is a pinky toned buff beige cream shade, and I have to say I actually really liked this color. I like how soft it is. I like that slightly cool undertone, and in the first coat it gave me really nice coverage, but I did notice in the second coat that it wasn't quite as self-leveling as the other shades in the collection. You can kind of see on the top left area that it was a little bit lumpy. Now, part of that is user application, but I am used to formulas like this smoothing out on their own as they dried, so I was slightly disappointed in that. And then we have the shade Bari. This is another neutral tone. This time it's more of a peachy beige kind of color, and this one was actually opaque in the first coat, but I did apply a second coat just to show you, and again I did find that this one wasn't quite as self-leveling, so even as it dried in the exact same spot actually, it ended up looking a little bit lumpy. Now, this is something that can be fixed with top coat, but it is just a little bit disappointing to have a polish that isn't self-leveling, because if you aren't really careful with application, it's not going to look perfect on your nails. Next up is this color Zarin, and this is actually a topper, so we've got a lot of iridescent shimmer running throughout, as well as some gold and champagne glitters, and then we also have a slightly larger golden hex glitter. Now, I didn't get any of the hex glitters on the first coat, but it does look really beautiful as a soft, subtle manicure in just the first coat. I did end up applying it to try to see how it would look as a full coverage color, and I ended up trying it with 3 coats, and I think it looked really beautiful that way. It's kind of just like a very soft, bright kind of shade, but it also adds a little bit of color and excitement, especially when you get some of those larger glitter pieces. And I do think that using a ridge filling base coat is going to make it even nicer looking, which is what I do have on my nails, because it kind of softens the base a little bit more so you don't see any harshness with that visible nail line. So with shades like this where they're going to be very sheer regardless, it is always nice to have that kind of base. And then I was curious to see this one as a topper on my nails, so first I'm trying it over navy, and I feel like that really brought out a lot of the color of iridescence in there, so you can see a lot more of that sort of rainbowy sparkle coming through on a deeper shade, which I thought was really nice. I also tried it over Hebe, and it did level out that polish underneath nicely, but it did end up having a much more subtle look on the nails over a lighter color. So when it comes to iridescent glitters, you definitely will get a more colorful look if you're working over a deeper base color. Next up, we have the shade Samara, and this one is a dusty rose cream shade, and as you can see, the formula on this one was incredible. It also gave me 1 coat coverage. It did dry down slightly darker than it looked in the bottle, but I would still say that this is definitely in medium pink territory. Absolutely stunning, a perfect autumnal dusty kind of shade, and it feels like a very classic neutral to me. Then we have the shade Winona, which is basically the deeper, more magenta toned sister of Samara. So we've got this very slightly dusty, medium pink kind of color that leans into darker territory. Again, 1 coat coverage, but I ended up showing you 2. And these deeper shades definitely are self-leveling. So unlike the lighter colors of the neutrals, these ones applied really easily, and they're definitely more beginner friendly. And then last but not least, we have the shade Velma, and this one is a medium brick red cream shade, and I will say this is another dusty one. I think it looked a little bit more vibrant on camera than it applied on my nails, but another absolutely gorgeous shade. I love deeper reds like this, especially when they have that little bit of dustiness, because to me it feels like a very perfect fall color, but it also works really well into the winter season. So this to me is also like a perfect cranberry red for the holidays, so I think it's super perfect. Again, really nice, really self-leveling formula, very beginner friendly. So here are the polishes all together, and as you could probably guess from my review, I really liked all of these. Like I said, sometimes Zoya can be a little hit or miss with me, especially when it comes to color stories, but I found this color story to be really inspiring. Now, that might have something to do with the fact that there are 3 purples in there, so I was really excited about that. But like I said, I really enjoyed this split between half neutrals and half more offbeat kind of colors for the nails, and I think overall these colors look really beautiful together. For the most part, they were very beginner friendly, very self-leveling, the exception being those 2 beige shades. I thought that they didn't apply as smoothly as the others, but for the majority of them, I feel like this is a very beginner friendly collection, and I think it just hits all of those perfect points to me. And one other thing that I appreciate is that we're kind of veering towards the cooler tones, which is something that you don't see as often with fall collections. I think most brands tend to stray towards very warmer tones this time of year, so it's nice to have a collection that leans heavily into these cooler kind of shades, because not only are they great for people who have cooler undertones, but they're also great for falling into that wintry season as well. So they're going to transition very well in my opinion. But yeah, let's talk about these a little bit more. So yeah, those are the polishes, and overall, as you can see, I really enjoyed these. I will say the lighter shades were not as self-leveling as I would have hoped, which was a little bit disappointing. I do think that I could get them a little bit more even if I was more careful with application, but I kind of wish that they smoothed out on their own as they dried, because that is something that you can see in the darker shades. But the majority of them did perform really well, and like I said, I really enjoyed the first half of the collection, which was the darker purpley green blue kind of shades, and maybe I'm a little bit biased in that because I love purple, but I thought that these were especially stunning, and I also really enjoyed the non-cream finishes in there. I thought they were really fun. And I have to say, I feel like this to me is the perfect mainstream brand release. I think it's kind of a struggle when it comes to mainstream brands because obviously the majority of their audience, like when you're walking into a salon or walking into a store to buy a nail polish, the majority of people are looking for a more neutral shade or a pink or a red, but some of us who like the less traditional colors want to have something exciting as well. And I think this idea of splitting it into 2 sections is genius because we do get the best of both worlds. So you do get those nice neutrals, but you also get those really fun, almost indie inspired sort of shades. And I think it also really opens up the idea for more mainstream people to try the more exciting kind of colors. So I thought that was really fun. Also, for people like me who love both of them, I think it's really nice to have the softer palette cleansing kind of colors and then also have the more intense shades. So I think it just really works out all around. Now, as far as pricing and availability, all of these polishes come in the usual 15 milliliter bottles. They do default to the wide flat brush that has a rounded tip, so application is super easy, but I do believe that Zoya still sells their thin round brush if that's something you prefer. And as of the filming of this video, it appears that these are only for sale on the Zoya website where they retail for $14 USD each, but I know a lot of other online retailers sell them as well, so as those become available, I will link them down in the description. But I am curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think of this collection? What do you think of the 2 halves with the more neutral shades and the more intense shades? Are you planning on picking any of these up, or have you already? Let me know in the comments. We can chat about it. And if you enjoy my swatch and review videos, I would really appreciate if you could give this one a thumbs up. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe. I love you all, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Are you ready for the next would you rather question? This is, would you rather jump in a giant leaf pile or go to a haunted mansion that has friendly ghosts in it? Okay, here's the thing. I know that everybody always talks about like the giant leaf piles. I grew up in the Northeast where leaves fall and you can have a giant leaf pile. But as a child, I have never once had the temptation to jump into one. And I didn't know, and I'm still not 100% sure, do people do that in real life or is it just in movies? Because to me, even as a kid, I was like, this is a great way for a tick to get on my body, and I don't want that. Or have I just been neurotic my whole life? I'm not 100% sure. So that has never tempted me. Now I will say, finding a nice crunchy leaf on the ground and stepping on it, very tempting, very fun. But jumping into a pile of leaves, I feel like there's going to be bugs in there, and I've never wanted that. So that sounds terrible to me. And I think a haunted mansion where the ghosts are guaranteed friendly sounds fun, because then you can like talk to friendly ghosts and you can also be in a mansion. Like, I just feel like that sounds like a fun experience. Like, so my choices are, do you want to hang out in a mansion with cool ghosts who are nice to you, or do you want to jump in a pile of potential bugs? So, I don't know. It seems like a very obvious answer to me, but I am curious if anybody opposes my opinion. So definitely let me know in the comments. And also let me know, is this something that you have ever done in real life? And also, would you ever do this in real life? Jump into a leaf pile, I mean. Or also, would you ever go to a haunted mansion if you knew for a fact it was haunted? Let me know in the comments. We can chat about it, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!